Hey everyone, welcome to Almost Architect. Today we are going to go through the basics of Adobe Illustrator, what it does, when to use it, and I'll demonstrate the main tools. My blog is usually geared towards architecture students, hence the name, but this video could come in handy for anyone wanting to use the software. Here are some examples of graphics created on Illustrator. It's great for site analysis diagrams, environmental diagrams, and axonometric diagrams like this. There are a lot of overlaps between Illustrator and Photoshop, and often graphics could be created in either or both. The main difference between the two is that Illustrator works with vector images, whereas Photoshop creates raster images. A vector image is one made out of lines and shapes, while a raster image is made out of pixels. Here I've got a Photoshop file, and you'll see that as you zoom in, it gradually gets more and more pixelated. Whereas in this Illustrator file, when we zoom in, you'll see that it never becomes pixelated because everything is saved as a shape or a line. So in this video, I'm just going to go through the basics and then we'll go into more detail later using some examples. So this is what you'll see when you open Illustrator. I'm going to create new and I'm just going to select A3. You can make any type of page, any shape or size. Also, you don't need to be committed to it at this point because you can change it once we're in the program. This is what you should see when you open Illustrator. If what you see isn't quite the same as mine, then just go into Window and you can select various things. So you can select Toolbars. I've just got the basic one on. Layers you'll want to see and properties you'll want to see. That's what we're going to go through today. So looking at the toolbar, one of the tools that you'll probably use the most is the pen tool. So that's this one here. This you can see you just draw by clicking, draw any line or shape. You can even add some curved elements like this. So this is what sort of separates Illustrator from Photoshop. Illustrator gives you much more flexibility to edit this line once you've created it because it saves it as a path. So as you can see, if I go to the properties panel here, I can change the fill of it. So if I want it to be a shape, I might make it into sort of a pink fill. Maybe I just want it to be a line, so I'll make it so that it has no fill. I might make the stroke a bit thicker. And I could change the colour of it, make it pink, make it black again. Or if you click stroke here where it's underlined, there's a lot more properties you can change. So you can change the shape of the lines at the edges and at the corners. Make it dashed. So that's what I mean by making it round at the edges. Maybe I don't want it round. And then you can change the proportion of the dashes as well. So there we go. Or just turn that off. So I suggest you have a play around with that. There's also opacity, which means you can just make it a bit more transparent. Okay, so other common tools that you'll use will be the selection tools, which are the two top tools here. You've got the main selection tool and the direct selection tool. The main selection tool you can toggle to at any time. So say I'm using the pen tool and I want to select something instead, I'll just press V and now it's switched to the main selection tool. If you can't remember that, you can always just go to the sidebar and select it manually there. with the main selection tool, you can basically drag it, you can change the proportions of it, so basic things. With the direct selection tool, you can select a node or a corner within the path and move it. So if I double click here, you'll see that I'm just moving the corner. I'm not actually moving the whole shape. So that's what that one's for. Another pretty basic tool we've got is the shape tool. So if you right click it, you'll see there's various shapes that you can make. It's quite self-explanatory. Just draw a rectangle. And if I click stroke, just like I did with the line, I can change it, I can make it dashed. I can change the colour of it. And there you go. Now another useful tool is the eyedropper tool. So if I use this, while I've got, select the shape that you would like to change and then select the eyedropper tool by clicking it on this toolbar, or you can just press I on your keyboard and that will be a shortcut to it. With that selected, I'll click on this black line which I want it to look like, and there we go. That's what the eyedropper tool does in a nutshell. In terms of shortcuts, say we've decided that we don't like that, we can just press Ctrl Z and we can undo it. Helpful thing with the eyedropper tool is, say you've done a diagram already and you would like to sort of copy the colours from that. So I will just drop one in. Here's one I did earlier, so this could be a diagram that you've made and you're trying to make all your presentation consistent, so you want it to use the same colours. I'll just drag that in, drop it to the side just off the page in this grey area, and then I can select the shape that I want to change, press I for the eyedropper tool, and then I can select whatever colour from here that I want it to match. Another helpful thing to do is just very simple, the copy and paste. So shortcuts for that are Ctrl C and then that will copy, and Ctrl V, that will paste. If you want to paste in place, again just Ctrl C for copy and then Ctrl Alt Shift and V. Now you can't tell that anything's happened because it's just pasted in the exact same place, but if I move that away, you'll see that the old one is underneath and it has in fact pasted it in place. So now I have 3 rectangles that I've placed here. Using these, I'm now going to show you the inline tool, which is here in the properties panel. If I press these 3 dots, then it comes up with even more align options. This is a really quick way to get things looking neat and well presented without having to faff around trying to measure things on screen. So if I select all 3 of these rectangles, I can align them to the centres, and then I can also space them equally. So you can see already that that looks a lot neater. Another tool that's on this left panel is the type tool, which is basically text. You can select this on the toolbar, or you can use T, which is a shortcut to it. This one, just like the shape tool, is pretty self-explanatory. You just make the shape and then you can type whatever you like in it. If you highlight the text, you can then change the font. So there we go. We can change the size of it. We can change the colour of it. And there we go. And we can just go back to the selection tool at any time and move it. Great, so that's everything I'm going to show you today on the left side. Layers is here on the right side on my screen, and it works very similar to the layers in Photoshop if you are familiar with Photoshop. If not, don't worry, very simple. Something that is on layer 2 is basically going to be above, on top of layer 1. So layer 2, if I draw something on here, no matter what I do with this shape, even if I click arrange and center back, because it's on a layer that is above layer 1, that will always be in front of everything in layer 1. I can add a layer 3 and that'll be behind everything in layer 3. You get the idea. If I want to, I can turn off the layers, which can be quite handy. I'll just turn this one off for now. You don't have to use layers. If it's quite a simple diagram, you might not need to. So for example, what I did there with the arrange tool, I can do that at any point. So if we're in the same layer, I can arrange, send that to the back. And now it's behind that, I've not had to change the layer that it's in, I've not had to make a new layer. However, when the drawing gets more complicated, for example, if you're doing a site plan, you might have the lines from the map on one layer. Above that, you might have the colours on the map, and then above that, you might have sort of arrows, sun paths, all sorts of different things that it's just helpful to have them all on different layers. And this turn off feature is really useful. Say you just want a site plan rather than a site analysis diagram, you can just turn all of your arrows off and just have the site plan that's underneath. It can make things a little bit neater. It also gives you the option to lock layers. So if I lock this layer 1, I can't sort of touch or move anything in there. I can unlock it at any time. But this can be really handy again. Say I'm drawing in layer 2 and I need to draw something like that goes here. You can see that it's automatically connected to this line on layer 1, which can be really annoying. Maybe I don't want an extension of that line, I want to draw a new line over the top. So I would just lock that, and now you can draw in layer 2, you can draw wherever you like, and it won't be affected, it won't try and anchor to any of the lines that are in the shapes, and it won't try and attach to things. Again, if you're in a line tool and you want to click out of it, just press escape. That's really handy. So you're not like scrolling around trying to reach stuff and you've still got the pen tool selected and it's trying to draw a line. Then layers up here, just so you can navigate it, you can drag these so that in different layers. You might want to name them. So say it's a site analysis diagram, you might want to name this map, and then you might want to name this colours, whatever makes sense to you. Just down here, you've got loads of options, so you can create a new layer or you can delete a layer. You can also just drag a layer down to the bin and that will delete it. Or will it? Don't seem to want to do it there. There we go. Now we've been through all the basics, I'm going to go through how we save things and how we export files. So if you look on the toolbar to the left, at the bottom, there is artboards. So if I click that, it'll just show us the artboard. The artboard is basically the sheet. At the moment, this is size A3 because that's what we specified at the start. We can change this however we like. As you can see, I can crop it down. I can also add other artboards, which are sort of like other pages. And when we export, we get a choice of which artboard we'd like to export, if any. So I will show you that. Just a reminder, zooming out is Control-, zooming in is Control+. Another really handy tool for moving around is the hand tool, which you can see I've got now. If you press H, it will take you to the hand tool, and that just allows you to pan around the screen. Back to the artboards tool, it shows you you've got 3 artboards, 1, 2, and 3. So we're gonna export. So File, Export, Export As. Here you'll see that we have the option to use artboards or not. So at first we'll use artboards. Like I said, we get to choose which one we want to use. I'm going to choose one. We could just export all of them and it'll export 3 separate image files for 1, 2 and 3. We'll just export one for now and export. Okay. Now there's another way that we can do it. If we go export as, and we don't select use artboards, export. There we go. You can see in the preview now that it's going to export everything that is in the file, whether or not it's on an artboard. We also have the option whether to make the background black, white or transparent. As you can see, you may want transparent if you're taking it into Photoshop to do something else with it. That might be useful. So I'll click OK. Just a reminder, we haven't ticked to use the artboards this time. And if we go into the files, here's the option where we didn't use the artboards. So that has included this image that we put sort of at the side just as an example to copy and paste colours from. We can always get rid of it and delete it later, or you can keep it on the side and use the artboard setting. As you can see, when we've used that, it has cropped it to the artboard and it's not showing the diagram that we had on the side. Now, when we export, that's going to just export it as an image file now. So if we click into this, or if we open that, we could just drag it and open it in Illustrator. We wouldn't be able to click on any of the lines. It would just be saved as a flat image. Instead, what we need to do as well as exporting is save as. This is just to save the editing file. If we want to go back in at any point and change it, we can then. We can't do that if we've only exported it and we've just got the compressed image file. So I'm going to save that. I'll just leave it as untitled for now and save. And that has saved it as an Illustrator file, which means that anytime we want, we can reopen it. It'll look exactly like this and we can move things around again. That's it for this tutorial. In the next video, I'll go through how to make a site analysis diagram on Illustrator, because that's a really common job that needs doing as part of an architecture university project and for young architects in work. If you found this useful, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you're interested. I also have a website called Almost Architect, which is honest, up-to-date information and advice on studying architecture from students as they are experiencing it. If you head over to the website, almostarchitect.com, you'll find posts on things like architectural CV writing, which you may find useful. So that's it. Thanks and goodbye.